I have my swing feel I had at Tiger's event in 2014. I played really well. The Masters in 14, a lot of 2014, I played from a swing feel. And then I have my one that I had in 2015. So I have these like three swing feels. And
What are the swing feels? Sorry.
one of them is like, okay, I've gotten really turned inside and almost pointed too far to the right at the top. So I feel this kind of like sat back, flat, laid off backswing. And from there, it just feels nice and pocketed. That was where I played 2014 a lot from. 2015, I had kind of overdone that a little. So I try and work this, rolled open face early, get a nice real depth in my backswing. And then I need to kind of feel like I'm coming over the top of it from there. 2017, I played from this real drag my left arm as low across my body as I can, get that left arm nice and flat, and hinge that wrist angle to try and get it back over my head a little bit. My tendency from when I was 12 years old was to take the club out and up and lay it off a little bit and then drop it from the inside and hit these big slinging draws. And when I started working with Cameron, it was to try and make that more consistent, closer to one plane, just get it back and through similarly. But my tendency is always to take it and not quite complete the backswing. And therefore, when I don't complete the backswing, the lower body starts a little too quick, and my miss is a little spinny right ball, which if you have one miss and it's just short right, you literally get away with that almost everywhere, except for 12 at Augusta, which I didn't one year because that was my miss.
I didn't want to say.
And that's just, that I was hitting the ball poorly that week, and every other hole you run into, you're fine. And that's it. And I've played golf that way for a long time. Well, that started to bug me that was my miss. Well, how do I compensate? How do I make sure that miss isn't there? And it would only really come up under pressure, because I would get a little too quick and I wouldn't have the patience to complete my backswing. Well, now what it had been was none of those swing feels worked, and I was trying all three of them different times through the end of through the middle to end of last season, and none of them were really feeling good through, and I wasn't getting consistent ball flights. And so I just had to try and think, like, where exactly is it getting off? And I start using video more than I ever have to try and dissect it. And the problem is I'm not a very good instructor. Like, I could be a good caddy, I'd be a really bad swing coach, because I'm looking at it from one viewpoint behind. I'm not looking at it from a face-on view to see that I'm actually almost like stack and tilt, like stacked, and I'm moving forward. And that's what's causing it to look a certain way from behind. Instead, I'm trying to make it look Adam Scott from behind, and just I'm like, but when I make it look Adam Scott from behind, I'm even more stuck, which makes sense if you're stacked and you try and tip it even more. So it's been this kind of this retraining over the last, I would say, month. January was rough hitting the ball, and then from then it's been a little better each time. And with the putting coming around too, and now really figuring out you saw on the range today, I was working with Cameron, we're just hitting, same ball flight, play as many of those draws as you can, draw. And
that didn't look like a guy searching for it right now. That was like a tune-up is what it looked like.
Right. It was let's go through the bag. I'll let Cameron was like, it was dialing distances in. Yeah. It wasn't working on my swing, which is really nice, but it requires a lot of effort right now. So I told Cameron, the best I've ever hit it under pressure was Pebble Beach in 2017. I had a 3-shot lead going into Sunday, and I hit all 18 greens I hit 17 greens in regulation, and the one I missed, I landed by the hole and took one hop over on 13. But 17 greens in regulation under pressure of having a 3-shot lead in a PGA Tour event is really good, given my tendencies in the past. I'd won golf tournaments by making putts or hitting really good chips or wedges, and it wasn't really ball striking that I left it in the right spots. I'd take advantage when I wanted to, but that wasn't the reason. Well, that was the reason that day. And so I'm like, why was that the best? What was different there? And and that week I was hitting 10 to 15 yard draws every shot. I could work a fade if I needed to, but I was dialing in. And what that did was, anytime I needed to take, 10 yards off of a wedge At Pebble Beach, you got to hit those 52 degrees from 100 yards sometimes, and just punch them into those back pins. And the transition move was so different from what I was doing, say 3 or 4 months ago. It was the exact opposite. It was a more kind of compact, kind of like a triangle shape coming down, where the club was always in front of me. It was closed. It was square early.
Steve Strickerish.
Kind of Steve Strickerish, but more of like a early closed face, to where I like to play from hold. I like holding my left wrist through. My grip is a little bit weaker. So if I can get that club set early, and it's in front of me, it's already there. Well, that's the opposite of it being behind me and open, and I don't have to rotate the face. There's one person who's played unbelievable golf, having a lot of club face rotation, and that's Tiger, through his career, which I think makes it even more difficult, yet he still did it at the level he did it, which is insane mentally under pressure, to be able to control more, especially putting. He has probably twice the amount of rotation on a putter blade than I do, putting really any distance, and to be able to control that at under the highest amount of pressure on some of the greens, Augusta greens or whatever, is even more insane than what he's already looked at. But anyway, it's just been this process of kind of reversing the body movement. I'm loading better now, and it's more free flowing, but it requires a significant amount of effort right this second. So repetition will just make that start to be normal.